Okay, so today we're going to be talking about greetings, farewells, and expressions of courtesy. So first of all, let's talk about language. Well, Spanish, just as in English, it has a formal language and an informal language. Now, formal language is used when you speak to your teachers, for example, adults, or any person that is in a position of authority. Now, informal language is used for friends or your peers. So these are the two kind of language that we're going to talk about. Okay, so formal conversations. We're going to start with greetings. And the first thing we're going to be looking at greetings is buenos días, which means good morning. Buenas tardes, which means good afternoon. Y buenas noches, which means good evening or good night. Now, on top of this ones, you can also say hola, but usually even if you use hola in a formal conversation, you would still say buenos días or hola, buenas tardes or hola, buenas noches. So even though you can still use it, you would probably still use any of the other above. Now let's talk about expressions of courtesy. So let's ask, how are you doing? ¿Cómo está usted? Which means how are you? And it's formal. Now to this question you can answer different things. You could say muy bien, gracias, which means very well, thank you. Or you could also say bien, gracias, fine, thank you. Now if you want to ask the person's name, then you would ask ¿Cómo se llama? Which means what is your name? And this is in a formal language. And to this you would answer me llamo and your name, which means my name is blah blah blah. Now if you don't want to ask the whole question again, ¿Cómo se llama? After you say your name, then you can just respond to the person y usted, which means and you, and this is a formal. Now once you met each other, you'll probably shake hands and you will like to say nice to meet you or pleased to meet you. So for that you would say mucho gusto. You could also say encantado or encantada. Now encantado is when you're a boy and encantada is if you're a girl, and they both mean delighted. To any of those two expressions, you could respond to the person igualmente, which means likewise. So you can always say mucho gusto and the other person says igualmente, or mucho gusto, encantado, or encantado, igualmente. So you can just vary it according to whatever you want to respond. Now let's talk about farewells. Before we just say goodbye and walk away from the conversation, we usually use an excuse to leave. So the first one is tengo que irme, which means I have to go. And the next one is more for you that are students, which is tengo clase, I have a class. Now to this you also want to say goodbye, which is adiós. You could also say hasta luego, which means see you later. You can say hasta mañana, which means see you tomorrow. And you can always mix them. You can say hasta luego, adiós, hasta luego, hasta mañana, adiós. It doesn't matter, you can just kind of mix and match. Now on a side note, these are a couple other things you might want to know. The first one is words, well, they're all words that you can add to your conversation. And the first one is señor, which means Mr. And in Spanish, señor is abbreviated SR. Now you also have señora, which is Mrs. And señora is abbreviated SRA. You also have señorita, which means Miss, and it's abbreviated SRITA. And another thing you might want to know is that usted also has an abbreviation, and usually in books and different things you're going to find it as UD. You capitalize. Okay? So let's move on into informal conversations. So here we go. Let's start with greetings. Now on greetings we will just use hola, which means hi or hello. That's usually the most common thing. Okay, so for expressions of courtesy, we will say first ¿Cómo estás?, which means how are you, and this is informal. And you can answer muy bien, gracias. You could say bien, gracias. You could also say mal. You can say más o menos. You can say así así. Or you can say regular. All of these are acceptable. Now, also you want to learn to say it more informally. ¿Qué tal? Also means what's up, ¿qué pasa? And ¿qué onda? Now, for all of this, you usually will answer nada, which means nothing. Okay, so you can say ¿qué tal? Nada. ¿Qué pasa? Nada. ¿Qué onda? Nada. Now, you can also mix it with the other ones. You can say ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? And it would be totally acceptable. Okay, now also on expressions of courtesy. Let's say you want to ask for their name. Then you would say ¿Cómo te llamas? And this is the informal way. And you would respond me llamo and then your name. Now if you don't want to ask the whole question again, you would just answer ¿Y tú? Which means and you. And this is all informal. And you could also respond after you meet each other. You could say mucho gusto, encantado o encantada, and igualmente. And I know it seems that it's very close to formal conversations, but in Spanish we still shake hands, we kiss, we say nice to meet you, delighted, likewise. This is just normal, even among teenagers. So it's totally okay, you're not doing something weird, okay? Now let's just talk about something very quickly. You probably already noticed you have y tú, which means and you, and then there's y usted, which also means and you. So you're probably wondering why. Well, there is a very simple explanation. The pronoun you in the singular has two different pronouns in Spanish. The first one is tú, and the second one is usted. Now, tú and usted both mean the same thing. They mean you. But tú is used in Spanish in an informal setting, and usted is used in a formal setting. So if you're talking to your friends, you will use tú. But if you're talking to me, your teacher, then you use usted. Okay? So let's continue. Now, in formal conversations, we are at the last part, which is farewells. And also, before you leave, you're going to make an excuse. You'll use the same ones. Tengo que irme or tengo clase. Now, you can also say adiós, hasta luego, hasta mañana, or you can also include chao, which means bye. Okay, so this is all about informal conversations and formal conversations. So I hope it's very clear. We will keep on going through this, and I hope this video makes any sense and helps you.